This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For March 20th, 2026, it's the best sounding and most secure podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, episode number 134. Two good ones. Broadcasting live at the exact moment day and night finally agree on something. This is the spring equinox edition of AV SuperFriends. The sun is rising, the semester is dragging, and somewhere on campus an unsecured AV device is still begging to be adopted by the nearest unmanaged switch. So lock down your ports and add one to all your passwords. We're talking network security today. I'm Chris Decter. You're tuned in for their Friday afternoon podcast adventure. And let's say hello to today's panel of AV SuperFriends, which, as you see, is larger than normal. We'll get to that in a second here. Our first panelist oversees the... Whoops. I didn't hit this button. Hold on.
We need music.
Hold on.
You can't do this dry.
There we go.
Hey.
Well, I pushed it, but it didn't... hold on. Our first panelist oversees the delicate balance between open collaboration and absolutely not letting anyone plug random crap into the courtesy LAN port on the lectern. He's a director of endpoint risk mitigation from Kansas City. Say hello to Mr. Jamie Reinhardt.
That doesn't seem right. I plug everything in.
Our next panelist designs secure AV ecosystems while quietly judging IT staff for every unmanaged switch ever hidden above a ceiling tile. He's a senior network AV security architect from Corvallis, Oregon. Say hello to Mr. Mark Kolowazinski.
Senior. I love having to have ladders to manage my network.
Sorry, that was it's a typo. Senior.
Senior. Sorry.
Security.
Yes. Different, whole different role.
Yes. Our next panelist investigates mysterious audio traffic storms and explains, for the 100th time, why the network is not the cloud. He's a principal analyst for multicast forensic from Greensboro, North Carolina. Say hello to Mr. Larry Darling.
All of my audio storms are on private islands. I don't know what this has to do with me.
It's in the cloud.
Island-like weather. Yeah.
Island clouds.
Our next panelist leads enterprise strategy for protecting classroom technology from malware, misconfiguration, and faculty who somehow have admin privileges. He's a vice president for Zero Trust Infrastructure from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Say hello to Mr. Justin Rexing.
I'm also running Network Island, so super secure, zero trust.
Perfect. And we're joined by some special guest panelists. Our first guest panelist is brought in whenever a campus decides the only truly secure AV system is one nobody can actually use. He's a senior manager for air-gapped educational operations from Indianapolis. Say hello to Mr. Doug Schaefer. It's audio, Doug. You got to say something.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Like, hey, I'm Doug.
You can tell I'm
Theater
new.
of the mind. Yes.
He was just being super secure. Is it?
Yeah, super secure.
Very secure there.
There's also live video, so people are looking at you.
Yeah.
Our next guest panelist is dedicated to minimizing every possible vulnerability, including unsecured touch panels and that one projector that is still on the publicly accessible network. He's a director of AV threat reduction from Northern Virginia. Say hello to Mr. Colin Burney.
Hello. I reduce all the threats by force.
And our final special guest panelist focuses on protecting campuses from the terrifying intersection of enterprise networking, outdated AV control systems, and hardware that still uses admin as the password. He's a distinguished fellow in cyber physical defense from New York. Say hello, Mr. Frank Paticala.
Hey, how's it going?
Ooh, look at this. And the song? Look at that. Look at the timing.
For having 3 extra
Wow.
guests, we got through that very fast.
I was pushing.
We
'cause I was
planned
worried
it
about
that way.
song crap.
We had a rehearsal yesterday.
Did we?
Yeah, on the live run through, this went just fine. So on today's show, we're going to discuss AV network security and the lack of AV network security. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you're listening to this as a recorded MP3, remember, we do stream live on Fridays at about 3:15 Eastern or 12:15 Pacific, or whenever Larry remembers which authenticator app is his two-factor to join the show. You can join us live for that on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or where the packets are mostly clean, the opinions are barely filtered, and the firewall is really more of a suggestion. And if you can't join us live, please keep your connection persistent. You can follow the AV SuperFriends on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Blue Sky. You can share the show with your coworkers, your campus IT folks, your least secure vendor, and that one department still using the same password for every computer. Spread the word like an unpatched vulnerability. We'd appreciate it. Of course, if you'd like to support the show, please consider donating. Your contributions help us to keep the signal strong, our nonsense encrypted, and the content flowing like suspicious traffic from an unknown foreign IP that somehow shows up every now and then. This spring, clean out your closets, rotate your credentials, and for the love of all that is holy, please do not cross the VLANs. And finally, while you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever any other platform you're getting this, please rate and review us. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners. Thank you for your support. We couldn't do this without you.
Ta-da.
Ooh, look at that. Right
That's fancy.
there.
Fancy.
Beautiful.
Where'd we
What
get
is that?
those?
Does that mean somebody
Multi-dollar
subscribed to
operation.
us?
No,
What does
no,
that
I found the
mean?
button, so.
Purely stolen.
All right. And now I'm going to shoehorn this in because for those of you who missed the last episode,
that's right.
here's 60 seconds of what you missed. Jamie, give me that other slate.
A full minute?
If you missed the last episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, we did the hard work of discussing AV cybersecurity, design drawings, and the uniquely infuriating art of campus departments buying random gear and creating disasters for everyone else to clean up. It was the exact kind of episode people claim they want more of right before they skip it. We discussed AV trust and the fact that maybe, just maybe, leaving things plugged into the network for 15 to 20 years with Telnet hanging out is not a flawless long-term strategy. Then we wandered into schematics, CAD, napkin sketches, one-off room designs, and the eternal question of where a real AV design actually starts, which, frankly, is more useful than 90% of the thought leadership floating around this industry. So, if you missed the last episode, congratulations. You passed up security problems, design arguments, and real-world AV pain in favor of whatever else you were doing, which was almost certainly less informative and somehow dumber. Go fix that. We'll wait.
Who was that?
pretty
Was that
spot on.
Al? Was that?
That's Al.
That was Al, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He
does all
sounds
our voices.
different.
All
more
right.
spry.
And now, because everyone's waited for it all week, Justin, you ready to sing along live?
Do.
Here we go. Do it.
Yeah.
Time for the news. So this week's article comes to us from EdSurge, which I gave our guest panelists the better part of 4 seconds to read. But sorry about that. It happens. Planning. So basically, the article is about a program dealing with K-12 kids, but getting them kind of trained up in cybersecurity while they're in high school, so they kind of hit the job market ready to jump right in. It focuses on kind of partnership with AV industry or with IT industry manufacturers to try to get that so they get real world training, real world hands on, and basically sets these kids up for success right out of the gate. So for those of you who did skim the article, thoughts?
I think it's the right direction.
Absolutely.
I would love to
Agreed.
see the content because I bet you it's probably not incredibly relevant. But awareness
Right.
precedes control. It's something. It's a step in the right direction. That's my take.
Well, the one thing I did like about what they were doing, where they were partnering with employers to develop the content, and it was constantly evolving. Because that's in my history of working with computer science students, that's one of the complaints I always hear is they're being taught stuff that's no longer relevant in the real world. The closer you can get that gap, I feel like the better off you are.
Larry, does that class use books? Because if it does, it's probably behind.
Stone tablets, brother. That's all we have. Abacus.
Teaching
Right.
Fortran still out there.
Yeah.
Hey.
I like this idea too, especially in this kind of field. Being with coaching and having a bunch of high school kids and everything, I talk to kids a lot all the time, and they're like, "Well, hey, what's your next step? What are you going to do?" "Hey, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to study cybersecurity." "Oh, really? How'd you get into that?" "Well, I just heard it pays well." Like, hold on.
I mean, they're not wrong.
Well,
Well, it,
Maybe.
it may not.
Isn't that the number one incentive for everything?
it is. It's like, but I feel like, sometimes we tailor that like, well, I'm going to be a doctor. No, I'm not. I hate biology, right? You know that by the end of high school that you're not doctor material. You're not whatever it is. But
You can be a doctor in a lot of different things, though.
I don't know.
I think in this, I like this because it is kind of that that merger, like trade schools. But
Yeah, it's very
it's
tactical.
yes, and set these kids up on the right pathway. Now, to you guys' point, usually the content's a little behind, but that's fine. I mean, they'll catch up as they go. It's more of the
awareness
exposure.
is there.
It's
Yeah.
the awareness. Yeah.
I think the exposure is the important part because there's a certain level of risk that you have to be comfortable with to work in cybersecurity. And I, for one, am not comfortable with that. So, like,
Well, you
I
have insurance
know-
for that. You're fine. It's
No,
like you make a
I-
mistake, you're covered.
I have been places
You're
where
covered
the network
once.
has been
You are
compromised.
one time.
Insurance does not keep your job.
Cybersecurity insurance. Yeah,
So
man.
out of curiosity, as you were teenagers learning technology, you were the ones testing the boundaries anyway, right?
I mean, I guess.
I mean, we got three experts on here. I'm pretty sure that you guys were. I might have been the guy putting the blue screen of death as the screensaver on all the lab computers so we didn't have to have class because the teacher didn't know how to do it, right? That might have been this guy. So maybe this is right up some of these kids' alleys. Like if they're playing around here anyway, maybe.
No, yeah, you give them something that's practical that they can kind of use that discretionary energy on versus using it for mal. And so,
or teaching them how to be malicious.
But there's also but there's also that element of like danger, just like you mentioned, right? They're like, oh, this is working with like a bit of that dark side. So there may be a natural kind of leaning element to, what is there a curiosity because this can be this can go in a different direction, right? I think there is some element of that maybe it's a different crowd than our traditional IT. I don't know. I think it's good to expose more kids to potentially this avenue, and I think it's good.
I also don't think cybersecurity is necessarily like a singular thing, right? There's a lot of overlap, and it's I guess one of those things that's very cross-functional. You can take the cybersecurity skills and apply it almost anywhere. I mean, here we are talking about security. Most of us know each other from our AV backgrounds and our IT chops, and here we're moving into cybersecurity. The fact that it is essentially a part of our conversation today. So I think it's great that schools are investing in that. And I don't think any educational program will ever equip you to do a job. I mean, to be honest, because it doesn't give you, it gives you the skills to learn, right? It teaches you how to learn. And when they go into their first jobs, I think what they've learned, they'll be able to probably apply it somewhere and just grow with it. IT and cybersecurity, it's volatile, it's dynamic, it's changing all the time. There's no way you can keep up. So you got to be in a job to get the bleeding edge thing. So
if nothing else, it's about giving the exposure. Like, do you want to learn something new every single day? Then this is a path for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that struck me about this is that I don't know. There's two things that kind of struck me about it. One is it almost feels a little bit like the the after school programs where you're like, hey, come play basketball instead of doing something else. Like they found the kids that are, because we talk about money as a motivator. You know what pays really well too? Ransomware pays real good.
It can.
That is a huge industry. And if you're good at this,
that's not offered at our school.
Right. But it's offered online. The other thing that I like about it is they said credentials matter. They only tell part of the story, and I like that because it sounds like this program is giving people, it's like, yeah, you can go get a CISSP or Security Plus or whatever, you can get those certifications, but unless you've actually sat down and dealt with this, that's an issue. And I'm hoping that this gives them a couple years of experience, because the thing that we found is that, like every tech industry, there are about 50% too many entry-level people for entry-level jobs and about 90% too few for any level above that. Like if you can break through that 3-year barrier, suddenly you just have jobs aplenty. And so if they can kind of get them to do that little hop out of that entry-level piece, that is a valuable that's valuable. And I think that that's the issue with what we're dealing with in the industry, is that we have to figure out how to get people past entry level, because you're going to get burnout and disappointed and frustrated because no one wants to hire you. And we talk to people, AV in general, it's like we talk to people all the time that they're trying to get their first AV job. And even though there's this huge need, everyone wants an installer who already knows something.
They don't have to reinvent and rebuild. I think just any level of experience is good experience. Right. And so getting people in, getting them curious and not making it seem like the first thing you need for success is to go past this massive exam somewhere. Right. Like that's not going to get a workforce that's ready to go. So show them a path to immediate placement and get them moving as fast as possible.
Yep.
I like the premise, at least, of giving people exposure to cybersecurity without the stress. Right. Like teaching people about it as a discipline and like being able to learn some of the skills, but not immediately be also, stressed out all the time about securing an environment that's your responsibility to take care of. I think that's a good way to kind of ease people into it a little bit, because some of that anxiety sometimes comes from lack of education. So having the knowledge and then being able to kind of deal with the real world problems afterwards, it feels like it's the right order. So I hope that works out. I think that'd be really cool.
Yep.
Or if nothing else, this is going to generate an entire cadre of awesome hackers who just
exactly
start getting into all our systems, and
which will then in
AV
turn
stuff.
create another training profile for more. Yeah, I mean, it's the cycle of life. I love it.
Yeah, the AV equipment will be first on their list. It's the easiest.
Yeah.
This security or this certificate expired 10 years ago. It's great.
Speaking of, isn't that what we're talking about today?
Maybe.
We are, but first,
wait a minute. We got to pay some bills.
We're gonna take a quick break. Jamie's gonna go find that other thing, and then we'll come back and we're gonna talk with Doug and Frank and Colin about how we can fix this mess. Hopefully, possibly. So like a 30-year plan. We're good.
Yeah.
50
years.
Do it.
All right. The AV SuperFriends are supported by Computer Comforts, and they've got a brand new product hitting the lineup. Last year, CCI's Evolve Lectern was a big hit. A push-button power table combined with a super flexible AV cabinet. But let's be honest, not every room needs 24 units of rack space. Shocking, I know. And that's where the new AV Hub comes in. It's a lighter, more space-efficient solution for classrooms that still need real AV infrastructure. You get 8 units of rack space, and the whole thing sits only about 10 inches off the wall, which makes it a great fit when you're pairing it with a sit-stand power table instead of building a massive lectern footprint into the room. And this wasn't designed in isolation. The AV Hub was developed in collaboration with Texas State University, so it's built around real higher ed classrooms and real deployment needs. And that means fewer compromises, cleaner installs, and way less, why is this furniture the size of a refrigerator? If you want to see photos, specs, and all the details, head over to computercomforts.com/AV-hub. That's the new AV Hub from Computer Comforts. Purpose-built, space-efficient, and designed for how classrooms actually work. And thanks again to Computer Comforts for supporting the AV SuperFriends. Alrighty. Security. Big stuff.
Yep.
Lots of good things with no actual plan and no provisions, no capability.
Good show, guys.
Good show, yeah. So who are these gentlemen on this show with us, Chris?
Joined by 3 people right up here. So Colin, Doug, and Frank. We teased this 2 weeks ago about the announcement about AV Trust, and you guys came a couple weeks ago. You announced the AV Trust as a nonprofit to kind of get the industry moving forward to at least, hey, you guys all need to be pointing in the same direction about securing your stuff, because we want all the stuff on the network. We want our single panes of glass. We want all the monitoring. I'm just plugging a cable into the wall and walking away. And let's be honest, I don't have any plans to touch, replace, maintain, or configure that device for 15 years.
Correct.
Which is not a good place to be. So I'm kind of curious. Wait, what? Let me finish. So,
finish.
So yeah, I'll throw it to you guys. Why don't you give us a quick overview of AV Trust, kind of how it came to be and kind of your plan, and then we've got a whole list of topics except for Justin, who couldn't wait. Justin, what?
No, I was just making comments.
He's excited.
Grunting
He's
noises.
excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thrilled that you already talked about us. That's pretty exciting.
Everything we can.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, when you guys dropped the press release, I think all of us went to our back channel. We're like, "Holy cow, what is this? We actually know these guys, and they're talking about things that are important." So we thought, hey, it's good show fodder. Let's bring them on, because we've said it all individually, but we're not experts.
I mean, I guess my first question is, you all realize how big this mountain is to climb, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you
ain't no mountain high enough.
So how? Yeah, you probably recognize that. How did you get this started? Why are you doing this? Not we. You're doing the hard work.
I got fished. I had no idea what I was saying.
Right, so I'll give the history on this, because this has been bothering me for a while. Like, security as a topic has been frustrating, and like anything in the industry, I think if you want to find a solution, you kind of have to start doing it yourself. Like, we've talked in the past about like creating communities and spaces, and places where we can have honest conversation. And this is another space that I think at the core is about honest conversation, because this potentially involves a lot of negativity. And I tested the waters last InfoComm by talking to a whole bunch of manufacturers. It's like, hey, we do you do security, and they're like, yeah, very secure, and it's like, cool. If I
They're not, that's a
donate
joke.
some-
That's not true.
or
You
do
know it's not
some-
true.
right? As like, well, you donate some gear for a hackathon, and they're like, no.
No, we don't need that
I
kind of
said, here's the
publicity.
thing, you can't
Colin, they're already secure.
stop
They don't
me.
need you to be messing with it. It's secure.
Right. It's like, you can't stop me, but I'd love for you to participate. And so after scaring everyone, I had some conversations with Doug and with a few other folks, and we talked about, okay, how do we make this a reality? And one of the big gaps that Doug brought up that I thought was really important is that there's no Secretariat Council for what we do. So there has been a history of researchers finding vulnerabilities, reaching out, and then getting threatened. And so that was sort of number one on our list to say, hey, we'll create a buffer of communication, a legal buffer, and allow a safe way for the for researchers to interface with us. Because if we start exposing the industry to more of the broader security community, they're going to get curious and they're going to start poking on stuff, and they're going to find out some information. And so we sort of put the brakes on going straight to like hackathon. And Doug said, let's start a nonprofit. So we are the founding board of the nonprofit. I am the vice president treasurer. Doug is the president. Frank is the secretary. And so that's sort of how this was born, is like, well, we need some way to funnel people into something, and we're still figuring this out. I think we have some good plans and we have some good people joining in, but this really needs to be a collaborative effort or it's not going to work. And so, thankfully with that press release, we've gotten a lot of manufacturers reaching out to us. We've had a lot of individuals reaching out saying, oh, finally someone doing this. I'm still working. There's a few key security folks I'd really like to be involved who are like hardcore IoT security researchers that we would like to have on board. And I think that's sort of the direction. It's like there's a multi-pronged way to deal with this. I think our first push right now is education. I don't want to, I think we were talking to a manufacturer. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be the person that comes in and like starts flipping tables and slapping people saying, what's wrong with you? Because I think most people, to Chris's point,
Justin will.
I'll do that shit.
Most people don't think about it. Like if I'm a level one installer and I'm told to plug that thing in, I plug it in, and I turn it on, and I leave. And I'm not gonna it's not gonna be beneficial or productive to be mad at everyone right off the gate. I think after a while we have to go, hey, what are we doing here? We've talked about this. Are you serious? We're still doing this. But I think right now it's like, okay, now we have a platform to start saying that, to start saying these are standards. You must meet these minimum standards or it doesn't work for us as an industry. It exposes us to risk. It exposes customers to risk. It makes everyone upset. You got to stop. So that's where we're at.
It's really simple. I mean, either we could do it or somebody else could expose us and hold us responsible for it. I mean, the options are pretty simple right there. And I think all of us, Colin, Doug, and myself, I've spent a better part of my career just talking about security. My background is in cybersecurity. I use that cybersecurity knowledge to be useful in my AV job every day. I mean, so that's kind of been my niche. And when this came along, I was like all in. And the reason is like education is very important. But I want to start this off by saying we're not the doom and gloom people, right? Security never has to be painful. It doesn't have to be challenging. There's a better way to do it. And the reason why anything is challenging is a lack of awareness, and most importantly, lack of the language and how to speak it and how to communicate security. The fact of the matter is, I feel AV has come a long way. I mean, there's a lot of people who are doing security practices, but just don't know what they're doing. They changed their password. The thing is, security as an industry has existed for a long time, probably longer than AV in itself. And what it has done is given us plenty of standards, plenty of ways of communicating these things. And the hope is that we can kind of make this popular, make it common knowledge. I mean, AV needs to be integrated with security. The next generation of integrators, the next generation of manufacturers, the next generation of AV designers need to have a security first mindset. And that's the way it is. As long as you plan on existing on a shared infrastructure, as long as you're not going to pull like network your own cables, network islands, that didn't exist. I don't know It's my pet peeve. Like when I hear island, I don't think there's ever been an island. There's no such thing as an island.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
An island.
Oh, that's a whole nother show. There's a whole.
Jamie and
Frank.
Mark are on Frank's team.
Frank.
Yes.
We're on Frank's team.
Thank you.
Pick me.
The network. The.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like we've kind of defaulted to a very simple way of approaching AV deployments by saying, yeah, we're isolated, we're segregated, and you go into network teams and say, hey, can I have a VLAN that has 50 devices? You have no idea the challenges involved with some of these things and how security operates and how networking teams operate, and so. What do? You're antagonizing the people who you're supposed to be friends with, right? And then I think there's an entire group of people, I think the AV's IT argument that was like, I guess every day in the Twitter spheres for a long time.
That is so old at this point. I mean,
I know, but the thing is, we tried to paint ourselves as something we're not. Yes, AV is all about the experiences. Yes, AV is all about the visual and the experiential impact that we give. But at the end of the day, are you saying that we don't need electricity, or do we not need the infrastructure? Do we not need the resources? Yeah, and we have to play by their rules, right? You can create your own rules. By saying, I'll bring my own switch and I'll create my own network, you're saying, I will do this whole thing by myself. And they're like, no, you can't, because you're in my space. You're in my building. You're in my facility. And that's basically what security has become. And we're hoping that by creating a space where people can come in and contribute and build that next standard future of AV, we'll give people the voice to do that. And that's practically the hope behind this nonprofit.
And I know there's people that are listening right now, their blood is just like boiling.
Yeah.
Sure. And because there's like the path of getting something done versus the path of getting something done correctly. And there's philosophical differences about getting my ass out of this room and being done for me and making my systems and services work versus it living harmoniously in this luxurious cloud connected and enterprise environment where do I care? I don't know. And I think there's a lot of ground in between these two examples. And we talk about it, I don't know, every day, Justin?
Yeah, pretty much. My biggest question is, we all understand, how Windows and Apple and all these big companies deal with security and their challenges with it. And they have teams of I don't know, you guys know more than I do, thousands of people dealing with security on their whatever.
More than
secure numbers.
So how, I want to, like, logically speaking,
it's like a guy in a basement.
How do these small manufacturers that are all making these products that live on the network have a security team each in their house? Because we all understand that it changes daily, right? We all talked about that. So producing a product with firmware X and then not releasing another firmware for 6 months. So are we expecting these people to release updates weekly, daily? Like, what is your thoughts on the long term here and how this is actually achievable?
So there's a multifaceted approach to that, and I think it does vary a little bit based on what type of product it is. So you see a lot of Windows-based devices in audiovisual today, and there's an existing security framework and a lot of rules that kind of wrap around Windows just by itself, not even including the other parts that would be Teams or Zoom or whatever specific, right? It's pretty hard to say that as a mandated standard you should have X amount of security professionals regardless of your business size or anything like that. But I think part of what we're trying to kind of help with too is identify what should be expected as far as standards for the products that people kind of buy. How somebody decides to make sure that those are in their products is up to them. It can be a full-time person. It can be a contracted team. It can be, a software development team. It can be a CIO, right? And I think how that works is going to be different based on the organization and the type of product that they sell and where they're trying to sell it. But part of, I think, some of the variance amongst the vendors in the AV space has been a little bit just because there's not been a consistent type of communication about, hey, this is going to be the bare minimum stuff that we for sure expect out of everything that we're going to see go into a corporate or a higher education or whatever environment from a networking and application security side of things. And, having those standards would make a world of difference towards helping then the companies making the products staff and plan appropriately for product development. Because someone will know exactly what needs to go in there when they do want to take something to market, right? Because right now it is all over the place. To your point.
What would some of that be? I mean, we have our ideas, but from your guys' experiences, what are some of those bare minimums? What if I'm evaluating in the future, today, yesterday? What do you feel some of that bare minimum? What kind of things should we be asking from the end user side to this manufacturer? Says, look, we all agree that these are the things. You don't have to be super specific because none of us know, but just the overarching thing. What is that? What's it look like?
I think that there's part of it, and this is a discussion that we've all had, is that our method of updating devices has been broken from the start. And it's the idea that security updates are tied to feature updates. So there's companies, they won't patch a security issue until they have a new feature to roll out. Because you remember the whole thing, is like there's certain brands where once you get it on a stable firmware,
don't touch it.
Don't touch it. You do
it's
not
working. Walk away.
Yeah,
manufacturer's like, we're done.
Yeah,
this
it's like
it. We're done.
Well, and I've even had somewhere it's like, if you want this feature, it's on this one. If you want this feature on this one, and they do not exist across these two because we couldn't figure out how to do it. And so I think that there needs to be a difference between security patching, which should be mandatory over-the-air patching, and features, which are optional. I shouldn't have to accept a new version just because I want to patch a security issue. And I think that's a big thing that customers can be asked for, to be like, hey, you need to separate these two things. And I think that's part of the issue. I think the other big issue that we have as an industry, and this is gonna, we're already starting to kind of like poke on some sore spots, is we have a serious issue with rebadge devices. So there's an original manufacturer,
widget
and
producer,
then there's like, we play that game where you go to the little tiny tables around the edge of Infocom, and you take notes. Yeah, and then you go and find it in 30 booths. And so if the OEM finds a security issue, they can't patch that because everyone has written custom firmware that at the very least has a different name and logo in it, or even better, has some other items. But it means that there's this long, complicated process of communicating through.
And when you call them out on that, they're like, yeah, that's the company we buy this shit from Australia or whatever. Right. And you're like, well, it's still a problem.
It's
like
still your name on this invoice, sir.
Yeah, you're still the support number I was told to call. And at a certain point, it's like, okay, you're torpedoing your business model by pointing backwards. It's like, well, then why wouldn't I just buy from the person who's guaranteed to patch it? And I think that's a big issue. And these are things that I think are important discussions to have. And I'm hoping that this is part of what we're talking about, is to say, okay, why don't we start pushing on these points in a little more serious manner?
The other thing I just want to jump in and say is, like, when we talk about security, if you've noticed the last 20 minutes, we're all trying to go towards that technical conversation, right? We're looking for how to secure things. The fact of the matter is, security never starts from a technical conversation. Security starts from a pure non-technical documentation. My favorite security term, and I love using this, is a risk profile. What's a risk profile? A risk profile is telling the stakeholder that, hey, I'm giving you this box and I have no idea what it does, right? And if Larry says, I'm cool with that, I know what it does, I'll take care of the risk, I've done my job, right? I've informed you that I'm clueless as far as the security is concerned. And Larry's like, I know the function of the box. I have a strategy in place for dealing with boxes that have no security profile. This is not uncommon in the world of IT. You'd think that IT is completely standards based and all uniform. Heck no. It's like it's worse than this. IT people and security people deal with the same problems that we're talking about: manufacturing inconsistencies, firmware issues, patching problems, security patching updates. There are several products out there that are very popular in the IT world today that have not had a security update for months.
Sure.
And you know what? That's common. They know it. The thing is, what we need to enable the AV community as a whole is to understand, how do we deal with the risk of it and what is the strategy associated with it? That is what we lack from the get-go, right? Once we've identified the strategy associated with dealing with the risk, then you'll have the right questions to say, hey, my network team will not accept something that does not do this. That is a more informed conversation to your manufacturer than this saying, hey, can you give me a document that says all the different things you do? They don't know what you're looking for. And so maybe help the community as a whole by building a collaborative environment. The problem is nobody knows what to ask and nobody knows what to say. So it's like, it's a completely confusing environment.
You have to build a common lexicon. And I look at this, it feels like this is a coming of age of AV, right? Are we finally being tall enough to ride this IT roller coaster in a way that we're not just taking black boxes and just pushing shit around structured cable? Because that's really where this all came from. How can I save money and not have to put this Klingon cable through this wall when I can just use this Cat 5 that's right here? Like, and now it all just kind of grew up a little bit.
It was cheaper for a lot of people to kind of basically put the blinders on and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to not care about that right now because I can put this in a closet and not look at it and
Network Island
only do this part, right? And to Frank's point, the whole premise about communication is called security by obscurity, and something that's a big problem in AV is like stuff is secured by basically not having information available about it. And they say, you know, nobody knows how to find anything, so it's fine. We're not going to look. It's all good.
Yeah.
And that's not as functional. It never really was a strategy, but it kind of finds a lot of holes as people are starting to require that information in order to adopt the technology properly because it needs to integrate with the rest of your network security profile, right? That's how you communicate. That's how communication works.
I like how Frank brought that up because Mark and I, you know, when we're trying to put everything on our enterprise, right, we had to have, like, one of the things I really struggled with right away was I didn't understand network names and terms and the white sheet you get from manufacturers, like, well, QoS has to be, well, that on enterprise, that's not necessarily how it works.
No, it's not.
Right. And so
I had to just bark out orders and say, do this. It's not going to work like that.
I had to learn all that. I had to learn the lexicon. I had to learn, and I don't even know how to be a systems admin, but I had to know the language and I had to be able to talk to them. And to Mark's point earlier, I feel like this is the next step. Like, I don't know what to ask. I don't know what's going to get blocked tomorrow until it is. And then I say, well, why? And they say, well, because of these things. Oh, well, I'll remember to ask next time. Is this something, for that lexicon thing, is that something that's kind of part of the pathway too? Kind of like, hey, dummy, here's your primer. Like these are the keywords that you need to ask, even if you don't understand them.
So we can print them on AVSF cards and have them at Infocom.
Yeah.
These are the key security words you need to know.
These words or know how to use them in a sentence to sound like you know these words.
Honestly, it's like even in the network side, like, so when I do teaching across managed services, across IT stuff, and now across security, vocabulary is really big because everyone has acronyms that they know, and they all speak this language, and they have common meaning for words that might just be normal words to the rest of us. And I think that is really important. And I think the great thing about what we're doing, and we, you know, this was a discussion early on about how we were approaching this. We don't want to create, we don't want to baby the AV people and say, oh, we're special.
No,
we run IoT devices, which are the most miserable, hateful devices you could possibly put on a network. And once we accept that, we go, okay, there's a framework for containing this threat. There's a vocabulary to go around it. There are some specific things that are unique to what we do because we have things like Dante and we have NDI and we have all sorts of fun stuff like that. But there does need to be a common language. And I think the nice thing is that all that training is available and free right now. Like I always tell people, like, go get the CC. It's an easy, like it's a sort of 101 vocabulary lesson in security.
CC, expand that. What is?
Sound like an acronym. What does that mean?
It's the sort of predecessor to the CISSP. It's kind of like if you went to Infocom and you got the, what's the one you do like the little test for, where it's like you're a certified like AV technician. Like what is that one? It's like there's like a really easy test that you do on Infocom that gets you like a really
recognized AV technologist one.
That one. Yeah. That it's basically that for security. It's a little more in depth, but it basically spends a lot of time on like the security triad and a lot of the language, because there is that sort of divergent path within security. There are the managers, like CISOs generally aren't sitting and configuring all of the security tools. And at the same time, people who configure security tools aren't generally writing policy around risk and setting, our risk appetite around, certain products and that sort of piece. So there's a little bit of the language that you have to have just to get into the technical part of it, because they have to work together. And so, yeah, that is part of our plan, is to say, look, if we don't have the training, I'll point you at it all day long. And there's just a lot of great resources already available.
Exactly. There's plenty of certifications in IT. CC's one, Security Plus. Heck, get a good network certification. Even a vendor-based network certification will give you some understanding of how these things operate. The problem is we come into it saying that we're AV designers, AV integrators, AV people, and we have no idea what we're asking of other people, like the other communities involved in our deployment. The crazy part is we do this really well with everybody other than IT, right? Mm-hmm. We have coordination documents that are excellent, that go to architects, that go to mechanical vendors, that go to contractors, right? But when it comes to IT, you send them a signal flow drawing, which is every network person that looks at a signal flow is like, what the hell is this? Why are you giving me this? What does this mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, right? We've stopped somewhere along the way saying this is not my job. I don't know why, but so it is our job.
There's a lot of animosity still that's built up over the years, right? And so I think a lot of us, we put things on, I'm going to use their network, right? So here that is, and then we get the sense we're going to go talk to the network security group today, and everybody's like, okay, you got your cheat sheet, you got to just have the lingo right, because it's like unlocking an API. Like if you don't have the correct code words, it's done. They're like, you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm not talking about it. And also to just as well as we do, like they use their acronym, we don't know what it is, and that's it. It's over.
And also to that,
authenticate.
In reality, when you're communicating with a network group or security group, you as a AV professional, any of us, don't make these things. We're not making these boxes. And so we're relying on the manufacturer's documentation. And so we conjure that up. We call our reps. We're like, do you have anything else? Because this is shit. I need some more information. They send you some more stuff that's like closed up in the back room that they're not going to let out. And you give that to the network group and they're like, none of this makes any sense. You're an idiot. We're like, and so it starts with the manufacturers, really, and it flows from there. That's the reality of it.
The biggest Tronosis whatever thing in the world, and give them that.
I think so.
This is an immature product. Like
we can't make up what the boxes.
Let Colin go. Yeah.
Hold on. Here's the thing that I struggle with is that yes, security people are kind of throwing their hands up and being like, I think there's something to be said for, hey, we need to go patch things up with security people. We've been, letting our dog take a dump in their yard every day and not cleaning it up, and then going, hey, neighbor,
and that's rude.
And moving on, that's rude.
Wait,
very rude. It is rude.
One thing I would say is I can't think of anyone who got all the gear to their warehouse, got it in a rack, and then just ran a basic vulnerability, like a standard VAPT test on that gear, and just check to see if there's anything going on it.
Yeah.
Right. And so if a security says, hey, okay, cool. Did you, have you done your basics? Like, did you at least check it out and make sure it's not goofy or weird? And you go, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just going to throw it on your network. It's like, cool. So now I have to do it while it's on my production network.
Well, we've been burned on this. So we'll lab it up or whatever one time.
Yeah.
And
that's
like,
great.
oh, this thing, we can't, now that's the other thing is the scale of this. So we lab it up. Let's say it's a manufacturer X model Y. We're like, okay, well, it passed. There's no documentation that it says it's using Telnet, and you buy them. And then, part of our practice is, we have to have the security group scan our devices when they do end up on our network, because sometimes they do. I joke about network islands a lot, but it's whatever. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they have this new firmware, and then there's this new thing exposed, and now we look like idiots again because the security team caught it. Like, why didn't you catch this? Well, I'm not scanning every system that I have because we don't have the personnel to do that. And it kind of goes back to the resources too. It's a
game,
cyclical thing that just never ends. It seems.
But I think that understanding who's responsible, if you know that you're kind of responsible because you're going to allow that firmware to go on, but giving them a heads up, being like, hey, we're going to be pushing some new firmware, just so you know.
Well, you don't even
That's
know.
not-
You buy
like-
the product and it came with it, and you're like, I didn't read every manual every time I buy a product.
It's
I
like
didn't
the one
know
I-
it
the
came with
one
a
I
new
tested.
firmware.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
I tested came with version 2.0, and
Well,
here
I
we
mean, I'll
are.
let you in on a secret. I don't think all the manufacturers read it either. If they put it out.
Exactly.
As
That's my point,
There's
Frank.
probably
It's
one,
like,
there's probably one person or two or a small group of people who understand that 60-page white paper. You're probably getting it from a rep. They've seen 2 pages on it. But heck, that's what we have AI today, right? I think AI is going to be a bridge in a lot of these
It'll help.
It's gonna have to be.
It has to, because at some point we have to understand that our language needs to align with whoever we're talking to. Otherwise, our products and it doesn't help that there are still strong proponents of let's build it out on our own island, let's build it out on our own thing. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Like, if that's how your deployment strategy works, and if the client is okay with it, attach a risk profile to that and tell them, hey, we have no idea what's on your switch, but we know your switches exist. If that's okay with the client, sure, right? But that's the thing. We need to be able to give those educated opinions, educated, qualified, technical conversations about our products. If we're selling a product, if we own a product, we need to own it. Like, we need to understand it. That's basic.
Yeah.
Any sales 101,
Yeah. So I'm curious about how we go beyond this black box strategy, because as we look forward, I for one believe that it becomes less about the black boxes, right? And when we start throwing in things like cloud and service delivery from that, that is a whole different layer of this cake that I can tell right now from my recent interactions with all these monitoring companies and the manufacturers they're tying up to. I believe the industry is way out over its skis on a lot of things right now. And I don't know how they're going to pull things back, because right now they're trying to figure out how to monetize things faster than they can even support them.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I was going to ask on, I think it dovetails here, Mark, onto your question, is that I've heard Colin say several times, IoT. The only thing that my people, security people, hate the term more than AV is IoT. But IoT,
Same.
because of the Internet of Things, right? That's the
Persistent,
internet
connected to the cloud.
Now, I agree. I think we
posture.
are moving, to Mark's point, we are moving to an IoT. We are moving to a cloud persistence. We are moving to a true Internet of Things, whether or not they'd move audio, video, something else. So I was interested. I was going to ask, similar to Colin, like, you keep saying IoT, which I agree with, but that brings all these other challenges to what Mark said. How do we merge that? How do we take it from the Trons to the cloud?
It's not just to have an account and you're provisioned and you're paying your thousands of dollars a month. Boy, everything's good. It's like, no. There's so much more to this story.
I think this is a little bit, this is a challenge for even the IT folks, because, removing AV from the conversation, the area of IoT security is honestly kind of a new space for a lot of people by itself, right? So, it's helpful to be able to articulate, I think, that your devices are non-standard on the network, but also the IT folks that a lot of people are used to working with don't necessarily have an immediate answer to the question, hey, how do you secure your IoT devices either? Which is why it's all the more important that we're able to articulate, at least for our own technology stack, like what the needs and responsible, usage of that is. I agree with the being out over our skis thing. History kind of usually shows that there's a little bit of a rubber band effect at some point when that starts to bite us in the butt. That was
Are we there?
journey. That was the journey and the experience when we started to venture onto the network in the first place, with a couple of things about application security and functions on networking protocols and stuff like that. So I don't know what that catalyst is going to be, but supply demand situation. If people are looking for more features for maturation of their devices, then usually there's a lot of stuff that happens to catch up when it needs to happen. Usually there's a little bit of a punishment first.
So I think we all have CISOs or some version of that on our campus. And I've had some recent conversations, and a lot of the belief is it's not the traditional vector of attack. It's not from an actor who's going to come into our network. The calls are going to come from inside of the house. It's going to be something that's here that's going to call out and invite in what's going on.
Probably
our
those
stuff.
high school students we just
Right.
talked
And
about
so
earlier.
that's a different traditional posture than like your normal security. And I think just the volume of stuff that we have makes them look at us a little bit different. Like, you have a lot of stuff that can potentially communicate to the cloud stuff in which we have no control over.
Well, not
Yeah,
only
yeah,
that,
we
we
know.
have a lot of stuff, and this is a very, very real concern, is that anymore, like we're getting a little bit deeper into like some of the major issues and the things that like give me stress, is that it is entirely possible, because it has been caught numerous times already, for a device to record information locally, wait for an opportunity to open up, a window to open up, and then exfiltrate that data out. And when you have devices that are sitting and listening to private conversations, privileged conversations, I could set a device to be like, hey, look for the CEO of this company. When you see that dude's face, you start recording that audio, transcribe it to text, hide that text somewhere encrypted, and next time there's a little call out, send that out, and maybe we'll learn something. And that's the kind of thing that we are especially dangerous, not just because we are an attack vector that exists and is kind of forgotten about, but we are also capable of doing a lot more damage because of what we can bring in. Like you've seen what's happened with the flock cameras. Their credibility is absolutely destroyed right now. And you watch the videos, I was like, it's so easy to get into a flock camera and just watch what's going on. That's a lot of power, because if I can find a flock camera somewhere that has privileged activities going on in it, I'm not now just getting into a camera. I'm potentially getting information that I should not have access to and probably wouldn't have any other way. And so we are in a very dangerous position, because we have put these things inside of boardrooms. We put this inside of government agencies, and that's what stresses me out about it, is that we're such a widespread technology base. Like, everyone just assumes you're going to have some sort of video calling at this point, but I don't think we're really up to it.
I think it's the philosophical approach from the years is like, in Q1 we're going to sell this black box, Q2 we're going to sell this black box, and I think the industry is just overly concerned about the better mousetrap continuously, that they're just not seeing the entirety of this picture. And they're not even staffed, and their organizational structure is not made up to even dive into this. We have engaged with the conversation, and they're just like,
what?
They look at you in the biggest of the big ones, all AV. I want to throw them all in the same bucket. Nobody is tall enough to engage in this for this ride and have the conversation. They're too concerned about staying solvent than they are solving the network problem.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, that's one of the reasons it was really important to us to start AV Trust as a nonprofit. I think it's really tricky for a company to prioritize security over revenue when your whole business model revolves around sales, right? And something that we kind of have to our advantage or to our credit, and I hope this is ultimately what helps other people or help other organizations, is like, we would be one of the only bodies of people that are actively working on this because we care about it, not because we're being forced to in order to make money, right? And that's really important in the security space. There are other industries where that's been a precedent too, where it's like, hey, in order for there to be any kind of consistent work put in to help kind of keep this thing afloat, some nonprofit participation is required. And that's kind of, it was very important to us for that reason, that we would be a source of trust, but also just people know that we're not making money. Yeah, right. He said the name. They're not trying it to make money, or they're not doing it to make money. They're doing it to make sure that it's happening and happening for the right reasons. And that's kind of that's one of the most important parts of that.
So for some of there's probably we may have a listener or two that are very interested in this.
19,749.
Well, not total listeners, just that are interested in this.
They're all
how like if they're sitting there thinking, how do I get involved with this? This sounds awesome. This is where I want to go. This is my passion also. And I've never heard somebody do an organization like this. How can they get involved with you? And what kind of things are you like? What kind of helpers are you looking for? I'm going to guess you don't just need some nerd. You know, like you have specific initiatives you want to go to.
Frank
Who are
already
you
said
recruiting?
no more nerds, only non-nerds who can communicate.
No super
words.
nerds.
Talking about candy, right?
But like how, what skill set, not skill sets in particular, but like your initiatives are XYZ right now, your short-term goals. What kind of people are you looking for to help you get there? Because as a nonprofit, it's not like you're just out there throwing money at all these people. So if somebody's passionate, what kind of passionate person do you want?
Yeah, so I mean, it was important to us to be able to have a lot of different types of people, you know, contribute. There are going to be people that care that, you know, don't have a whole bunch of cybersecurity training formally, but they would potentially want to learn. You know, there's also some people that have come to us from actual full-time cybersecurity jobs that haven't done very much AV that were like, this is really interesting to us because of the IoT conversation, right? Which is really great. And that was honestly the goal. We were really, really hoping we would get people from both sides because that's what's going to make us better. Because I think the being able to translate from cybersecurity as a whole to audiovisual and make sure that lexicon works and stuff like that, it's going to require a good understanding of our environment, our ecosystem, our technology stack, but also a good understanding of how the industry as a whole does things. We can learn from each other, right? So we're kind of putting together a couple of different councils about, one is generally for standards development, you know, just understanding, hey, this is going to be, you know, we talked about what the bare minimum is going to be for technology that, you know, goes on the network that we see from vendors, like putting together councils to start to build those standards a little bit so that we can say, hey, if you guys want to, you know, X vendor, if you guys want to have a technology product that gets reviewed by us or by, you know, by a client, and they ask us for help or whatever, these are the standards we're going to use to kind of benchmark that, so to speak. And kind of start to put that together so that people can understand what that is and have a common understanding of like what the expectation is. We're also kind of looking for people to help with some events and some training materials, education, writing, documentation, because there is a ton of that that's so very needed, that they'd be able to, you know, interface with some of our nerds and help put some of that in writing and help with the education part of it, because that's going to be really important for us as well. I think contact information wise, and we can share this in any format necessary, but we have a Discord right now that's been kind of doing well, popping off. We have a website, which is avtrust.org, which Colin put a lot of time and effort into. So that's awesome. And our email address and contact info is on there as well.
I put a lot of time and effort into it because I'm not good at making websites. So what you see on there is the absolute best I can do.
Graphic designer.
Mostly, yeah, a lot of time and a lot of like, why doesn't this work? No, but yeah, I think the other thing too is like we do have the Secretariat Council that is meant to ingest any sort of security sides to it. I think too, it's like, yes, we're a nonprofit. Yes, we do need money. I think one of the things that some of the people that we need to interface with will not work for free, and I wouldn't expect them to. If I want to hire a security researcher to study a family of products, I need to be able to buy those products, pay for that person's time, and then present that information. I'd love to do that in partnership with someone so they can, you know, put their name on it, we use it for marketing, whatever. But then it'll be freely available to everyone. That is a really important piece about what we talked about, is that there's not really membership. Like, people will be on councils, people will be sponsors, but everything we do, we want to be available. If we put on an event, we're going to record it, we're going to put it on for free, because it is better for all of us that information is available than to try and turn it into some sort of, you know, incentive to give us money. I just want to get things out there. But we do, you know, there is some money necessary to get into that, because I would like to pay researchers to just dive on stuff, send them a box full of stuff and say, hey, take this apart, look at the boards, tell me what components are on it, tell me what's going on. I'd love to, you know, to that point, it's like when we talk about like, how do we get better with this? I don't think there is not currently a YouTube channel where someone gets AV gear and opens it up and looks at what's actually on there. And there's a famous picture that
The sticker
gone
blocks
around.
us every time. The sticker, the warranty
Yeah.
sticker.
Void
Oh
the
yeah,
warranty.
there's that last screw, and you cannot
just-
get through it.
It stops me every time. I'll just tell you, I've
Yeah,
never.
it's your deep conscious. No, but there's a famous picture of this converter box that is filled with USB to BNC converters, and then there's an Arduino and a Raspberry Pi, and it's in a chassis and it looks like a product, but you open it up and they just have stuffed a bunch of stuff in there, coded it together, put some nice interfaces on it, and shipped it out. It's insane.
Yeah.
And you're going to share that with us, correct?
I will share
Chris
that
is already
with you,
on
yeah.
it. He's like, I got
he's gonna
this.
find it. Yeah. I think this is actually a really good chance for higher ed to, just like you mentioned before, to really dive in, because I think there is a level of importance of like third party in this, right? Where it's sometimes
100%.
we're not going to be able to take the manufacturers and say, okay, they've done these things. Where when we're talking about large scale enterprise deployments that have mature security parts within their organization, they can actually do this testing and do the reporting at scale. I think higher ed is perfectly positioned to do that. And I think that this is a great vertical to kind of start getting that word out. And if nothing else, like if you're listening to this now and you think you can contribute, you have to reach out to these guys.
Sounds like a thesis material to me.
Well,
That's what
and
it sounds like.
And especially since so many of our colleges are in the process of opening up cybersecurity centers and test hubs, like this sounds like a perfect partnership.
Yeah. So I had an oddball question for you.
agree. Yeah.
And I think that would be a huge tool to even the manufacturers, because you got to look at it from their perspective too, right? What are they trying to solve? Because you have the entire spectrum in AV. We have people who just want the box and they don't care about any security, all the way up to government deployments that are ultimately there. This
just
the
want the
ultimate
code.
level.
Yeah.
So it's that entire spectrum. So our hope with AV Trust is that it becomes that information is crowdsourced and crowd driven, and the community is able to push the industry forward together in saying, hey, this is what we need. And then once that baseline is set, I think it makes it easy on everyone. You know, there is no animosity here. The goal is to make sure that everybody plays to the same, tunes, and everybody's talking well and communicating. And eventually we have a more secure AV industry, which is what we need before we end up in the news as some box that caused the entire thing to crash.
That's not an if, that's a win, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'll tell you, I was a little terrified.
Won't be
Like
my
this
network.
excites me because I was a little terrified earlier when you were like, nobody puts their stuff in a stack and just runs a security audit on it. I'm like, oh God, don't, just no. I don't want to know. Well, it's that ignorance is bliss, right?
Yep.
But I do need to know, and some of the reason is, and I can see why integrators and some manufacturers are like, well, that's a bottom dollar thing at that point. Where, to everybody's point, like in higher ed, we're like, well, we can run these tests all day long, and we all have these enterprise systems, and we're not making money on these most of the time. So
I've always said that higher ed will definitely lead the AV industry in setting the security standards. It's been my belief because they're uniquely positioned. They're enterprise, yet they also have resources and the need, frankly, to secure some of these things. So
I'm going to say something controversial.
do it.
God.
Do it.
What?
Do
It's
it.
that
This is not
I
the
think-
show for this, Colin.
I think also higher ed leads the industry in putting AV devices on public IP addresses.
Yeah, let's do
Yes.
it.
There's
28.19.
there is
got in the
some
DMZ.
Those are for
absolutely
testing.
incredible stuff that happens. Yeah, like throwing everything in the DMZ because, well, it's just easier.
Mhm.
I'm not like, again, and
Works
this
now.
is like, this is not what we're trying to do with AV Trust, is like call people out. That's too easy. The better thing is to be like, I'm going to do education that may
Lift them
happen to
up.
mention your specific situation. And then when I check back with you in a year, we better not see this thing still happening. And that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see.
Do you see yourself? I'm curious, like as a goal, do you see yourself as like a scoring and grading service or something along those lines?
I that's something that we've had some discussion about. Like one of the things I've been trying to work with is find. Yeah, one of the things I've been working with is trying to find good vendors that we can vet and actually offer services to be like, hey, here's like, if you want to do security training for your for your staff, here's a product we recommend. Go use, you use discount code AV Trust, and we get a little, a little money for us, and you get a product that we've added. Because I think what's happening, what will happen with this, because this has been a discussion with like managed services. We get to the stage like, okay, pick a ticketing platform, and they go, and you start looking, and you look at the quadrant, and you see 6,000 logos, and then you go, I'll do this some other time, and then you just leave, and you never come back. And I want people to be able to say, okay, if this is a concern of yours, here's something to buy. And because to a certain extent, it's like, if you're not an expert in it, someone's got to just say, do this, just do this, be good. And I do agree. Like, I think that scoring is a potential piece of it. I think that one of the things I'm trying to find right now is a trusted partner to do vulnerability testing on hardware, so that if you, a customer, want to test gear, we can say, okay, this is someone we trust that has good output. They have expertise in this area. They're good to go. Or if you're a manufacturer that says, hey, I want to take this more seriously, who can I ship some boxes to actually hammer on this stuff and scan it and, try to break it and then come back to me. And that is something that we would like to do just as a point of service for the industry, because it'll be easier if we do all the legwork and just go, hey, this person's trusted, go for it. And that's what we're trying to get to.
I think that's where your AI is going to come in, right? You're going to be able to build these types of things pretty quick to actually leverage that and start that kind of service.
Have you thought about partnering with a higher ed institution about doing security audits through the whole campus?
That would
or just sitting in the parking lot of one of them and doing it.
Yeah, you don't even
because a lot of
scattering USB drives. And
I mean, you all know this, but a lot of IT
you could
companies
probably just show up and be like, "Oh, I just did this 10 minutes ago."
Yeah.
You might think about it.
But I mean, that's the thing, because I think IT companies hire, third party to, do a self-test on themselves. Like, why wouldn't AV do the same thing? And that could be you all too.
Just a ransom attack without the actual.
Potentially. I mean, I think the other piece is like, if we're talking about AV as a business, this is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
As a practice, like there's no like these are services that are valuable and have real value.
They can't be afterthoughts.
Yeah. And so I think that this is an opportunity. It's like, sure, we'll probably look at some stuff, but honestly, I think that some people out there, as they get going or kind of, figure this out, they're going to go, okay, this is a way to make money. And that's
exactly
fine. If you're good at it and you hit it, man, go develop it. And that's a big, I think that is a big potential to say, okay, when does the first firm pop up that has a suite of security services specifically tailored
dedicated to AV? That's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because you have to.
Right now.
And that's something like we're there to partner
after
with
there's a major vulnerability, which takes out a huge university.
Justin's going, huh?
Well, so we're all starting to play around with AI, and Mark and I have been doing some OpenClaw stuff. So daily, I have a network security scan and a vulnerability test on my home network. And guess what? And I'll say the manufacturer's name because it's not AV related really, but I've got 6 or 7 WAPs here at the house. And a specific manufacturer called Ubiquity, for some reason, has 3 of the WAPs open on Telnet, and I can't figure out how to turn it off yet. And so so I didn't know that because I did my own security scan on my AV devices, but here we are with some of the access points in my house. They're all the same model number, 3 of them running Telnet wide open.
I think that speaks to like, we have to lower the threshold of like interest in this and curiosity, right? There has to be a level of folks, because we talk about Infocom or any other trade show you go to, people are going to like, how many IO spigots does it have? What's the latest chip that does on it? Nobody's ever said, oh, how's the security work? Right. And so I think
would that even be interesting on a marketing document though? That's
try that next time you're at a trade show, though.
Right. But we as consumers, because let's face it, we are consuming these products. We're not voting with our dollars correctly. We are not asking the questions.
Sometimes we don't have an option, Mark. But yes, I agree with you. But sometimes it's like,
we also don't look around.
We don't look. It's just not in the lexicon, and it's the sales reps are doing everything they can to not talk about that. They look at how many ports are on this black box.
So Frank, a minute ago you mentioned, would that be interesting? Absolutely, yes. So I've run into, and Mark, I do vote with my dollars in this case, but it's a very small amount of dollars, so who cares? I've run into some displays. These are large LCD panel, big displays that we're all putting all over the place that did not support modern namespace network identification. It was basically like you could put in a pseudo hard-coded static IP address. If you could wedge in a name, it had to be within like 8 characters. Like all these like semi-arbitrary limitations on just how it even reports to the network, which didn't meet any current modern standards of like 10, 15 years ago. And to the point where when I went to buy another set of displays for another building, I did not buy from that brand because I didn't want to deal with their nonsense. And I'm currently dealing with that with another huge brand of displays that does projectors and displays and all sorts of stuff that has trouble with how their NICs report on the network. And I don't want to deal with that. So the next round, I'm not buying that brand of displays. Now, I didn't actually light them up and tell them that's why, but I think that's a valid feature set and a valid kind of, customer feedback to say, I can't use your stuff on my network because of X, Y, and Z. You don't meet the basic threshold. You don't meet the modern requirements. You don't meet whatever these, and there's such a low bar. It's so easy to kind of get across these things, but it's that same challenge of like, how do we get that across to manufacturers? And so I love that you guys are putting this together as a potential conduit to do that. And also to Mark's point, maybe this helps us start to square that circle of most AV devices. Now, even if everything moves to the cloud, we're still going to have endpoints that are, a display or speakers or whatever that is, something that has to be in the physical space. I'm going to purchase that once. That is going to be good for 10, 12, 15 years. I'm not going to think about it again. Which means that thing never gets updated. It never gets refreshed. There's no firmware revs to it because let's be honest, it's a dumb device, a dumb endpoint that doesn't need, we talked about earlier, those security features.
Transducer with no logic.
Well, the security may come with feature updates, but that, a giant LCD panel is not going to get a feature update. Hopefully.
Or older equipment that should, like we're still rocking MPS 100s on our campus on
the
network.
That's my point. Because
patch
it
that
still works.
Crestron, patch my MPS 100.
So what's our conduit to the industry to say,
that's
you need to be more up to speed with this. We are interested in this, but you also have to go back to your monstrous back catalog of those 4 other companies you purchased over the last 10 years and either fix that stuff or give us some way to go in and disable things, or I'm taking it off the network and I'm building an island because that's the only way it'll work. So.
Yeah, and I think the information, that's why the information is one of the most important parts of this, because it's not going to be affordable for everybody to just go throw away everything they bought and buy something else. So at minimum, we need to be able to say like, all right, well, we know that this one is not great, but we know what it is doing and what it's not doing, and we can kind of respond appropriately. If it needs to be on its own segment, cool, we can make the changes we need to make, right? But that's not information that we've historically had publicly available. And that's why I think the information and the communication part is honestly the most important part of this for the short term, especially because then that's going to be what allows people to actually plan their hardware strategy around that for long-term stuff.
And I for one, I really like that the information part and the bringing it all together is there, because it is an intimidating thing to people who aren't used to it. So I personally, it's like, it seems big and scary, and I keep putting off learning more about it. But if you can give me a baby's first step, or these are what to look for, then all of a sudden it's not a scary conversation. It is not a, how did I learn that this was insecure? Well, somebody else told me I couldn't have it anymore. Yeah. Usually my CISO. But I like this. I like that you guys are trying to go to baby's first step and take it to a higher level and be that intermediary. I'm kind of excited for this. I hope that like you guys, like they're all listening to the show, our 20,000 listeners, and
22,614.
And they all call you. We get some real good experts, and they're throwing cash at you. I really hope that this goes, because I'm looking forward to somebody being kind of that centralized force to bring us all together and start having that conversation without boxing gloves.
Not to go fighting. You're not going to have to commit to this, but I would really love a cheat sheet pre-Infocom.
Oh, yeah.
Asking for a friend, just saying. Yeah, I will give you all of Chris's time to put that together. Go ahead.
If you guys can focus on 2 things, the cheat sheet, the common dictionary, know these terms and what they mean so you can start speaking the language and build from there. Colin, like you said, there's a lot of certs out there and things you can kind of build towards, but that first step. The other thing is, I think if you guys build this common framework for for like communicating security issues, both directions, like from manufacturers down to end users, because God knows some of them are terrible at it and others just don't do it. And then also the same direction. Hey, we're seeing this weird kind of thing on our network. How do we get in touch with the right people at some of these manufacturers and other organizations and whatnot to kind of start communicating? So like some sort of framework to go both directions on like centralizing and communicating some of this stuff in that kind of, like you said, kind of like we're going to legally like protect you, pull you back one step so you're removed slightly from that. You're not going to get hammered about it, but at the same time, this is important stuff to be able to communicate. If you can do those two things, I think you guys are going to be in a great place to be.
It puts
By the
us
way, and
if you spot for conversation, and that's where we want to be.
Yeah, and if you haven't look at the EDUCAUSE HECVAT as a potential model, because it is a very wide range. If you haven't looked at that, it's free. If not, I'll dig it down.
All universities should at least have awareness of the HECVAT.
Somebody on each university campus has awareness of it. Yeah. Probably not the right person, but it's a comprehensive kind of like vendor evaluation thing for how you do updates, how you do security, how you maintain your security posture on things, how you maintain your software, all sorts of stuff. It's very wide ranging, but it's a framework you could use as a model to kind of like, I mean, it's very comprehensive, but you could use it as like, how do we even just communicate some of this stuff? So
it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic starting point. Look at that, steal from the best, keep doing all those things. They spend all the time on it. Why not just take that? So
no, and I agree, and I think that's an important thing to realize, that this is already a mature practice for a lot of people, and I don't want us to come in like, I feel like the old way of doing things would have been like, okay, in order to be more secure, we're going to create a new proprietary network port.
We need a new standard.
We have we need a new connector, and you'll know that if you plug into it, and you have to get a special switch,
it's an 8P,
which some manufacturers will
crimping tool.
Yeah, it's like we can't keep doing that. It's like we have this stuff in place, and it also, like, I think it'll sort of clear a lot of the how do I say this? It'll clear up a lot of the opacity we have right now with hardware specifically, because I struggle to have those conversations, because there are companies that are manufacturers that do not have a factory. They're a marketing company that will mail you a box. And that is something that I don't particularly care for. And I think that a lot of customers don't know any better, because the branding's really nice and it comes in a good box and everything's logoed and it's good to go. But I think that there's an obscurity there. And the people that are doing their own work, like, I don't think it's necessarily bad to OEM something, but you have to do it in a way that inspires some trust, not that feels like you're trying to obscure where it's going. Like, that's always the game. Like, every time a new product comes out, you run over to Alibaba and you see which picture matches it and what their unit cost is. And you go, oh, cool, neat. Yeah, that new phone, found it. I could make one too, I guess. Why not? And that's not all gear, but there's a lot of it. Every rack has those little doodads and widgets and things in there. And like, some of them, I guess it doesn't matter. Like, some of them it does not matter, because if it's just, point A to point B transmitting HDMI, I don't care. And I think that there has to be something to say. It's like, I agree that it's nice to know what's going on with stuff, but some stuff just doesn't need to be on the network. Like a TV, I don't know. If I can tell whether it's drawing enough power to keep that little LED light on that says, red or green, I can probably tell if it's alive. And that's all I need, because anything else that's wrong with it is going to be something I cannot detect remotely. If someone punched a hole in it, or there's a big red line running up and down it, no amount of remote monitoring tells me that. And so is it really worth it to have that device on the network for minimal benefits? Like, I have a massive amount of risk for almost no return, because I'm not updating the firmware on it. I'm not patching it. I'm not pulling logs. And all I'm doing is putting a device on there that could end up part of a bot network or something like that. So
everything should be serial control.
Yes. Honestly, that's the network-based, the IP-based RS-232 controllers.
Yeah.
There is something to say for, okay, if I have a bunch of unsecured devices, the easiest way to secure them is to have a device I know I can secure. Like, I can have a jump box with 2 NIC cards on it. Okay, I only have to worry about that one thing. And if something goes sideways, I can pull the plug on it. And it doesn't really matter what's downstream of it, because they're going to be having their own issues. And we can segregate it. Is that the best idea? Probably not. But that's how
But it
IoT
works.
is. I mean, that's how IoT is dealt with. There's devices that are specifically for that have a bunch of like 1 billion USB ports because they're there to keep track of a bunch of IoT devices, and they don't want those devices actually on a production network. They don't want it on Wi-Fi. That's why a lot of IoT devices, like you throw a SIM card in and it's like, great, it can get to something, but it's not getting to my network. So who cares?
Who cares about T-Mobile?
You know what? That's their problem. If they get taken down by my errant air sensors,
Their own fault.
that's their problem.
Humidity's just right, but T-Mobile went down.
Yeah.
Well, I
Can't win
think
them all.
this has been a fantastic conversation. We'll have to have you guys back as we, let's check in 6 months. And
Yeah,
I think Mark
absolutely.
gave us a good, and I hope you have plans for it, a good kind of benchmark is like, what do you got at Infocom? Because there's got to be something big. You got, 90 days or so. I'm sure you have some plans and things.
We'll have
I'd love to see
A
you
new
put little
website, Colin. A new one.
an updated
come
website. I'd love
on.
to see you come up with little stickers you go around and put on products. Say this thing sucks on your network. Please don't.
We'll do it for you. We love doing that kind of stuff.
AV Trust
only.
acknowledged.
Yeah.
This is going to be a problem. AV Trust. Just stick it on there. So,
Yep.
we have to get the word out somewhere, and there's a lot of stuff that just gets unpacked. Firmware never gets touched. It never gets configured. Just gets plugged into the network. People walk away. So there's all sorts of problems. So to that end, if people want to get involved, people want to find out what's going on. Where are we going? Where are we sending them? What are we doing? Where are we looking for all that stuff?
avtrust.org. There is the link to the Discord on there. Link to our LinkedIn if you're a big LinkedIn user. You have our names. We're all online. Come and find us.
Yeah, reach out.
You can get up through LinkedIn, through the website, through Discord. We're all on there. Yeah, definitely. We're starting to form councils. So if you have interest in creating education, reviewing standards, putting out information, great. We joke, but I would love someone who knows more about making a website, because if we're going to have a lot more content going out, I can't spend 20 hours putting one page up.
You're going to
on
get
a WordPress
spammed by
site.
every contractor out there has a Wix account. So.
Everybody who's got their Clawbot running is like, oh, I can do that for you.
So, yeah, Doug and Frank, last words. Any last things we didn't cover or didn't mention you want to throw out there?
No, I mean, thanks for having us. This was great. I'm really excited about this. So it's nice to hear other people feel the same. Next stuff for us is definitely, the documentation stuff you guys asked for is already absolutely on our list anyway. Specific feedback about stuff that you guys would like to see in the lexicon or other stuff, we will take that feedback in any way that you are willing to give it. Because, we want it to be a community guided thing. We want the stuff to actually feel useful to people, and that helps get that real-time feedback. And, we're working with vendors and stuff like that right now, actually. Having some early conversations about, what would shared training materials look like? What would, making sure that we have some kind of consistent modus operandi, sound like for reporting things. So more announcements to come from our side on that as well.
Yeah, again, thank you for having us. This has been great. It's a fantastic conversation. I think the conclusion is we understand that AV is not so unique in that we're just part of the network, but we're also unique enough where there's some nuances to the way we operate things. And hopefully AV Trust can come in and bridge some of that through education and training and community participation. We just want to make security friendly. Security doesn't have to be that taboo topic that we avoid, because you can't avoid it anymore. And hopefully more people talk about it. And, there's a lot of we started this off on a very nice note, but with the education platforms and how people are talking about cybersecurity education, there's an opportunity in AV. There's thousands of boxes. There's thousands of networks. We could spur new businesses. We could spur new job opportunities, things that are absolutely necessary. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can be that center point of education, or just a gateway to make security friendly for AV people and AV friendly for security people. And hopefully this all becomes we'll all have our kumbaya moment.
Tons of opportunity. Love it.
Indeed.
Yep.
So looking for that first huge vulnerability, but it's out there. Probably people know about it too. So, yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and we'll see what the future brings and what you guys have for us at Infocom, and hopefully I like those little stickers that says this thing's terrible on your network. Those just floating around. If you don't make them, I will, and we'll go put them out there. So we won't do the security scans. Anyway, so thanks again to everybody. Head over to avtrust.org, see what's going on, and we'll catch you guys next week with another episode of Nonsense. Same bat channel, same bat time.
Thank you.
Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well.
Best,
Really, a lot of
best
hustle. I
sounding
liked it.
podcast.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.